Hey, this is Luke. In this video, we're going to cover a topic that anybody who wants to consistently catch fish has to know. For example, do you know exactly why a fish will move during summer versus winter and why they move before and after cold fronts and how they react? If your answer isn't a definite yes, then you're not as consistent as you could be, and we're going to help you solve that. And it's all about, again, it's about knowing the fish. It's not just thinking like a fish, it's actually knowing how a fish reacts without thinking, how they actually react to the changing weather pattern or a changing season. Even a cold front can make a fish completely react, and they do it consistently. That's the great thing about it. It doesn't matter where you are, if you're in Florida, if you're in Texas, or somewhere in between, or up the Atlantic. It's all about just knowing how a fish is going to react based on a weather condition. Because if you know that, you're going to put yourself in the right place at the right time more consistently than anybody else there on the water. A quick story on something that really helped change my game, and I just really started just thinking about a fish's biology and how they react to changing waters. For years, I never even considered it, and it's really simple when you look at it that way. And it's really wintertime. A fish can't moderate their own temperatures. They're looking for warmth. And so I'll show you some cool drone footage that we took, and it actually shows where fish position during the wintertime when they're actually looking to be warm. Because in the wintertime, again, they're looking for warmth, and there are a couple things that you can do to identify the areas that are most likely going to have the warmest water. And that's going to be areas that are, especially when the sun's up like it is today, areas that are shallow with a mud bottom, because mud attracts and holds heat better than rock or sand. So in many cases during the wintertime, all you really need to do is look for areas with shallow, muddy bottoms on a sunny day, and there's going to be good fish sitting there just warming themselves, but they're also going to eat if you get a lure presented to them properly. Another tip for wintertime fishing is just to know that the wind-protected shorelines are most often going to be a little bit warmer than the windy shorelines, and that's because, you know, as the air is cooler than the water, there's just less surface area that is of the air interacting with the water, so the air just literally cannot penetrate the water nearly as good as it does on the windy side. So just knowing that, those three things alone, knowing that the wind-protected shoreline plus dark bottom plus muddy material, if you find that combination after a cold front on a sunny day, you're going to find fish. And on the opposite end of the spectrum, so during the summertime, you know, obviously warmth is not a factor. They're plenty warm, and typically that'll speed up their metabolism so that they're feeding better. But in the summertime, especially for some species, when it gets really, really hot, like when it gets on the high spectrum, at that point it is important to know that that warmer water has less dissolved oxygen than cooler water. So as the temperature increases and goes up and up and up, that's going to be less dissolved oxygen, which is what fish rely on for their actual energy. So there's always a point in time when it gets too hot that then the dissolved oxygen is a big factor. So you need to start looking for areas that have as much dissolved oxygen as possible during those hot months, because that, again, is where the fish are going to be. They're not even thinking about it. That's just their body telling them that they're uncomfortable, and they're going to keep swimming until they find what they're looking for, what their body is telling them to get. And at that point, again, in the summertime, they're looking for dissolved oxygen. So areas like seagrass beds or passes and inlets. So seagrass beds are great because seagrass actually gives dissolved oxygen into the water. And then passes and inlets, you know, areas where that funnel a lot of water from one place to another, is just going to have more oxygen. There's going to be more oxygen running through the fish's gills in those types of areas. So they'll often seek those types of areas during the summertime. So you can see in the summertime a lot of fish positioned up on grass flats, up in potholes that are up in grass flats, in particular the ones that are either in or near areas with a lot of current, because that, again, during the summertime is most often going to be where they position themselves. All right, so on top of those just high-level seasonal kind of trends, it's very important to look at the lower-level trends, and that's really all about just tracking your results. It's about logging your trips, what you're catching. You'll see a lot of guides are doing that. A lot of the people who are very serious about getting consistent, they're logging their catches. They're keeping track of where they're seeing fish, during what tidal phase, during what season, you know, what the type of conditions were, the water clarity. All that stuff is a big, big deal, and so you have to know, you know, those little small details to truly be a consistent angler, and having your own log is a great way to do that. Yeah, so keeping these logs is incredibly important. If you're not doing it yet, I highly recommend making those and keeping track of them. I've graduated from doing the printed out sheets to using today's technology, and it's just so much more effective. I just go out fishing. I log what I catch. In many cases, I actually keep footage and film the footage of what I did. I log, you know, the weather, the temperature, the tide, the water clarity. I just log all of that stuff and then track it. And I built a system out where we now can actually click a season, click on a type of tide, click on a species, and it'll show all of the past reports so that we can just go in and remember and look into and understand the trends that are most likely going to apply for that exact time period.